Picture this. A 5'5" Argentine kid from the slums walks onto a football pitch and makes grown men look like they're standing still. That's not a movie script, that's Diego Armando Maradona. But here's what nobody talks about. Prime Maradona wasn't just good, he was so dominant that FIFA literally had to change the rules of football to stop him. And I'm about to show you exactly why even Messi and Ronaldo combined couldn't touch what this man did in his prime. You see, most people think they know Maradona's story. The hand of God, the drug problems, the controversies. But what if I told you that between 1984 and 1987, Maradona played football at a level so insane that scientists actually studied his brain to understand how it was possible? What if I told you he single-handedly turned a team that had never won anything into European champions, while the entire Italian league tried to break his legs? By the end of this video, you'll understand why Pelé himself said Maradona was the only player who scared him. Let me take you back to 1984. Napoli had just signed Maradona for a world record fee, and 75,000 people showed up just to watch his presentation. Not a match, his presentation. But here's the thing, Napoli were absolute garbage. They'd never won Serie A, barely avoided relegation the year before, and were playing in the toughest, most defensive league in world history. Milan had Van Basten, Gullit, and Rijkaard. Juventus had Platini and the entire Italian national team. Inter had Germany's World Cup winners. And Napoli? They had a bunch of nobodies and one 5'5" Argentine who everyone said was too small for Italian football. What happened next broke mathematics. In his first full season, Maradona didn't just improve Napoli, he turned water into wine. The team went from 11th place to fighting for the title. But it wasn't how many goals he scored that was insane. It was how he completely rewired football itself. Defenders who had shut down the world's best attackers for decades suddenly looked like children. Giuseppe Bergomi, Italy's legendary defender, said defending Maradona was like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. And he wasn't exaggerating. Here's what made prime Maradona literally unstoppable. His center of gravity was so low that physics worked differently for him. When normal players dribbled, they needed space. Maradona, he could change direction at full speed without slowing down, something sports scientists said shouldn't be possible. His left foot had more nerve endings than most people have in both hands. Doctors actually tested this. He could feel the ball's texture through his boots and adjust his touch mid-stride. But the scariest part? His peripheral vision covered 210 degrees when the human average is 120. He could literally see players behind him. In the 1985-86 season, something shifted. Maradona stopped being just a great player and became something else entirely. Napoli's training sessions had to be closed to the public because 10,000 people were showing up just to watch him practice. Players from rival teams were secretly attending his games on their days off to study him. And then came the moment that changed everything. May 10th, 1987, Napoli versus Sampdoria. If Napoli won, they'd win their first ever Serie A title. The pressure was so intense that 3 Napoli players threw up before kickoff. Maradona, he juggled the ball in the tunnel, smiled at his terrified teammates, and said, "Today, we become immortal." Napoli won 3-1. Maradona scored a goal so filthy that the Sampdoria goalkeeper applauded him. Naples literally shut down for a week. The city recorded 0 crimes for 3 days because even the criminals were celebrating. But here's what's crazy. This was just the beginning. That summer, Maradona went back to Argentina and did something at the 1986 World Cup that still doesn't make sense. Argentina's team was decent, nothing special. They had no business winning anything. In the quarterfinal against England, Maradona scored 2 goals 4 minutes apart that perfectly captured his genius. First, the hand of God. Pure street football, cheating with such audacity that even the English had to respect it. Then 4 minutes later, he picked up the ball in his own half and dribbled past 5 English players plus the goalkeeper to score what FIFA officially called the greatest goal in World Cup history. But listen to this. After the match, the English players asked for his shirt, not out of anger, but out of pure respect. Terry Butcher, England's captain, said, "I wanted to punch him for the first goal and applaud him for the second. In the end, I just wanted his shirt because I knew I'd never play against anyone like him again." The semi-final against Belgium, Maradona scored another goal where he dribbled past 4 players. The final against West Germany, he didn't score, but he made the assist for the winning goal while being marked by 3 players. Argentina won the World Cup, and Maradona didn't just win player of the tournament, he got every single vote. That had never happened before and hasn't happened since. Now, if you're thinking this level of dominance is impressive, drop a comment below and let me know who you think the real GOAT is. because what I'm about to tell you next might change your mind completely. Back at Napoli, things got even more insane. The 1986-87 season saw Maradona operating at a level that shouldn't exist. He wasn't just beating teams, he was psychologically destroying them. AC Milan hired a sports psychologist specifically to prepare their players for facing Maradona. It didn't work. He nutmegged Paolo Maldini twice in one game. Maldini was 18 and would become the greatest defender ever, but Maradona made him look like he'd never played football before. Here's a stat that nobody talks about. In 1987, Maradona created 127 clear goal-scoring chances in Serie A. The second best player created 43. He had more successful dribbles than entire teams. Juventus tried to man-mark him with 3 players. He scored a hat trick. Roma tried to injure him. Their defender got sent off, and Maradona scored the free kick with his right foot just to mock them. But the most insane thing about prime Maradona wasn't the goals or the dribbles, it was his aura. Players who faced him talk about it like a supernatural experience. Franco Baresi, maybe the greatest defender ever, said, "When Diego had the ball, time moved differently. You'd think you had him, then suddenly he was gone, and you didn't even know how it happened." Ruud Gullit said Maradona could see the future on a football pitch. These aren't random players, these are legends describing Maradona like he was literally magic. The Italian league got so desperate they created a new defensive system called Zona Mista specifically to stop Maradona. It involved having one player mark him constantly while 2 others provided cover. Maradona's response? He started playing deeper, almost as a midfielder, and still dominated. He'd drop to his own penalty box, collect the ball, and dribble the entire length of the pitch. Coaches couldn't figure out how to stop him because he wasn't playing by football's normal rules. In 1987, Napoli won the double, Serie A and the Coppa Italia. A team that had won nothing in 60 years suddenly had 2 trophies, and it was basically Maradona plus 10 random guys. The celebrations in Naples were so intense that the Italian government had to send in the army to maintain order. 9 babies born that week in Naples were named Diego. The city commissioned a statue of Maradona that was bigger than their statue of Jesus. But here's where it gets really wild. In 1989, Napoli faced Stuttgart in the UEFA Cup final. Stuttgart had Jurgen Klinsmann and Guido Buchwald, who would both become World Cup winners. Napoli's second best player was probably Carica, who was good, but not world class. The final was over 2 legs. First leg in Stuttgart, Napoli lost 2-1, but Maradona scored an away goal with his weaker right foot from 30 yards out. The Stuttgart goalkeeper said he saw Maradona shoot but couldn't move. He was literally frozen by disbelief. Second leg in Naples, 3-1 to Napoli. Maradona didn't score, but he created all 3 goals. For the third goal, he dribbled past 4 players, drew 3 more towards him, then backheeled to Carica, who scored. The assist was so beautiful that even the Stuttgart players applauded. Napoli had won their first and only European trophy. A team from southern Italy, looked down upon by the rich northern clubs, had conquered Europe because one 5'5" Argentine decided they should. The numbers from Maradona's prime are stupid. Between 1984 and 1990, he was directly involved in 67% of Napoli's goals. Not just scoring, creating, assisting, winning penalties, everything. In the 1989-90 season, Napoli won Serie A again. Maradona was 29, supposedly past his prime, carrying injuries that would end most careers, and still nobody could stop him. He played the entire season with a swollen ankle that needed surgery. His doctor said he shouldn't be able to walk, let alone play football. Maradona scored 16 goals and created 23 others. But the most insane stat, in his 7 years at Napoli, Maradona missed 37 games through injury. In those 37 games, Napoli won just 8. With him, they had a 68% win rate. Without him, 21%. One player literally made a 47% difference to an entire team's performance. That's not normal. That's not even abnormal. That's impossible. And then there's the violence. Serie A in the 80s was basically legal assault. Defenders didn't just foul, they tried to end careers. Maradona was kicked, punched, elbowed, and stamped on every single game. Claudio Gentile, who man-marked him in several games, admitted, "I kicked Diego so many times I lost count. He never complained, never dived, just got up and destroyed us anyway." There's footage of Maradona getting his ankle stamped on standing up with blood pouring through his sock, and scoring a free kick with that same injured foot. The referee corruption was real too. Northern Italian teams didn't want a southern team winning, especially not one carried by an Argentine. Maradona had legitimate goals ruled offside, clear penalties not given, red card offenses against him ignored. He once got booked for complaining after being punched in the face. His response, he dribbled past 7 players and scored, then ran to the referee and sarcastically applauded him. Here's something that will blow your mind. Maradona's prime was so dominant that FIFA literally changed football's rules. After the 1990 World Cup, where Maradona dragged an average Argentina team to the final despite being half fit, FIFA introduced the backpass rule. Why? Because teams were so terrified of Maradona getting the ball that they'd pass it back to their goalkeeper constantly. Football was becoming unwatchable because of how scared teams were of one player. They also changed the offside rule and made referees protect skillful players more. These weren't coincidences. FIFA's own documents from 1990 mention protecting creative players and show footage of Maradona being assaulted. They literally rewrote football's laws because one man was too good for the sport's existing rules. Now compare this to modern football. Messi and Ronaldo are phenomenal, maybe more consistent, definitely played at the top level for longer, but they played in an era where players are protected, pitches are perfect, sports science keeps you healthy, and the best players are concentrated in super teams. Maradona played on pitches that looked like war zones against defenders who were allowed to break your legs, while carrying teams that had no business winning anything. Messi had Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Neymar, Suarez. Ronaldo had Benzema, Bale, Modric, Kroos, Ramos. Maradona had Andrea Carnevali and Salvatore Bagni. If you don't know who they are, that's exactly the point. He turned nobodies into champions through pure individual brilliance. Pelé played in an era where Brazil had the best team on earth by miles. Maradona played in an era where Argentina was good, but not great, and Napoli was a joke. The degree of difficulty isn't even comparable. It's like comparing someone who climbed Everest with oxygen and guides versus someone who did it naked and blindfolded. Even Maradona's failures were spectacular. The 1990 World Cup final, playing on one leg against a West Germany team that would dominate football for the next decade, he still almost won it. Argentina lost 1-0 to a dodgy penalty. Maradona played the entire tournament injured, got his team to a final they had no business being in, and cried like a child when they lost. Those tears weren't just about losing, they were about knowing his body was breaking down, that his prime was ending, that he'd never get another chance. By 1991, the cocaine had caught up with him. The injuries had accumulated. The pressure of carrying entire cities and countries had broken him. But for those 7 years, from 1984 to 1990, Diego Armando Maradona played football from another dimension. He wasn't just the best player in the world, he was playing a different sport than everyone else. So is prime Maradona actually good? Number. Good doesn't describe what he was. Good is Hazard, or De Bruyne, or Lewandowski. Maradona in his prime was a glitch in the matrix, a player so far ahead of his competition that we had to rewrite the rules of football to make it fair for everyone else. He remains the only player in history to single-handedly win a World Cup and single-handedly turn a nothing team into European champions. Now, if you think there's a player who had a higher peak than prime Maradona, I want to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell me who you think could match what Diego did between 1984 and 1990. And if this video opened your eyes to just how insane prime Maradona really was, check out this next video where I break down another football legend who dominated their era in ways nobody talks about anymore. Trust me, you won't believe what football used to be like.